All right. So welcome to our career meetup on applying to graduate school.
Yeah.
If you have any questions or anything throughout the presentation, feel free to just speak up. Sometimes when I'm presenting, I can't always see who may be speaking, so feel free to always interrupt me if you have any questions.
Okay.
All right. So thinking about graduate school and some questions to consider before really applying to graduate school and really figuring out what your next plan is, what your next step is in your plan. So here are some things to consider, some questions that you want to ask yourself really before you start thinking about graduate school. So the first question is, does my past academic record suggest potential for graduate study? Or in my current experience, if you are a current student looking at graduate school, do you have the necessary skills and qualifications to kind of move forward? And then kind of the next question is it really based on your career area and your area of interest? Is a master's degree enough? Do you need to pursue a full doctorate or any other degree that you may require for your specific area of interest in your career field? Looking at where will I choose to go and how to afford graduate school if you do make that decision. All right. So here are some things on why you should go to graduate school. So again, focusing on your career aspect, and if you want to continue down that path, that academic interest, the area of or field of interest that you have chosen, or selecting a different area, and so that particular subject and looking to study that more in depth for you as an individual, and then looking at whether or not you need an advanced degree in your specific profession or your field of work that you've chosen. All right, and so some things we're going to talk about today when evaluating programs, thinking about graduate school, and what all you should consider when you're thinking about asking where do you want to go and how to afford that. So the first thing is looking at your program curriculum and whether or not there's an internship component. Oftentimes, schools will make you pay for an internship. There are some opportunities to have an internship paid for, or if it's unpaid, at least you get the academic credit. And so that's one thing to think about, especially as you're pursuing a higher degree. Oftentimes, there is an internship aspect of that curriculum. And so looking at what kind of faculty members work in that field or what faculty there are, if there are faculty members or professors who work in that field who are very well known, um, thinking about how to interact with them and how to engage with them before you apply and while you're there as a student, if you do apply and get into that program. And the next thing is looking at how well the program is known throughout the state or throughout the nation or the world, even if you're going internationally, and thinking about, is it very popular? Is it well known? If it is very popular, how hard is it to get in? Is it very competitive, or do they have enough space? And so looking at how we really highlight that aspect for your program reputation is very important. And so the next area we're going to focus on is the cost, and how to help yourself with that, and thinking about how to really get around the cost of graduate school or other programs, other degrees that may follow after that. And then you have your campus facilities, your career services, and then specifically the geographic location. All right. So looking at the parts of the application before you think about kind of considering where you want to go, you want to see what graduate schools are actually asking from you and seeing what parts of these that we go over are really going to highlight who you are as a student and what you want to accomplish. And so parts of the application, you have your admissions test, making sure to see which specific tests you need to take. Oftentimes there are some schools that accept the GRE, but there are schools that accept other forms of admissions tests, or they have their own specific tests. And so making sure that you have those specific admission tests completed beforehand, and that you have ample time in case you need to retake them to finish before your application is due. And then we have our resume, which you can work on perfectly in our career development center here on campus and making an appointment with your career coach. Looking at your statement of intent, this is also known as a personal thesis, personal statement, personal essay. So just this specific piece of information is called many things depending on which institution you're applying to and what type of program. And then letters of recommendation, interviewing, and then your transcripts. And so I'm a very visual person. I like pictures and I like images. So looking at this graph really helps me in kind of the next steps for graduate school. And this is from topuniversities.com, but a university idea of what grad school applications look like are very similar. And so again, you talked about your resume, your GRE, or your specific excuse me, degree field and their admissions tests that they require, your transcript, and then your personal essay that we also mentioned. And I'll let you kind of read through those for a bit. You can take a screenshot, help
Uh,
you with that.
I took it.
Okay, good. That's what I was thinking. But this is just a great, again, little highlight to kind of follow the path of what you should focus on as you move forward in your steps to completing your graduate school application. And so kind of going a little more in depth with admissions test, focusing on the different types of tests. We have the GRE, the ACT, the GMAT, or the MAT, depending on what your testing site calls it. The LSAT, which is for law school. There's just various numerous tests or admissions entrance tests that you can really highlight. And so with that, you have different portions of most tests, which have a verbal, written, and mathematics portions. And again, based on what test you are taking, that's where you really want to highlight the specific areas, whether it's verbal. Oftentimes that written component is really where they see a lot of who you are as an individual and how you write. And then the mathematics. And then you have your options of keeping your scores for up to 5 years. If you choose to defer a year or two, or you choose to apply to graduate school 3 years after you graduate from your undergraduate program. And then when you are applying to graduate schools, make sure that you send the admissions test to 3 colleges, 3 universities that you're looking to apply for, because it is free when you do take the test, but once you are finished and out of the testing area, you do have to pay an additional fee for those scores being sent to different colleges. And then there are various testing centers on campus and in any different county or part of the state, or different states if you are moving. And so looking at where your specific testing site is very important so that you know to be prepared and on time before your exam starts. All right, and again, looking at your resume, now your resume is going to be a little bit more comprehensive, meaning that you don't have to really stick to one page, and you should really focus on what you are going to study or what you hope to study in that area and anything that relates to that field. And so thinking about maybe writing a CV versus a resume is also important. Again, depending on what type of degree, if you're getting a higher master's level degree or a higher PhD program, looking at what academic experience you have. And so this, again, helping you review different section headings. We have lots of resources on our website, careers.appstate.edu. And then again, you don't need an objective with your resume or really anything aside from your information that is very relevant to you. All right. And so what we have next is tips for letters of recommendation. And this is the idea of what you should really think about when you're looking for letters of recommendation when you are applying to graduate school. So make sure that you really only ask those who you really feel would write a great recommendation for you and would be very supportive of you applying to other programs outside of your undergraduate or your current experience. And so some people to ask, some individuals, professors in your current area, your current institution, previous employers, or your current supervisor, internship field placement supervisors, other advisors who are part of any organizations that you're a part of, any administrators, or any other students that are in your current or higher level of field in your institution. And then again, kind of when you are requesting those letters, be sure to allow them plenty of time, ample time for them to really write a very supportive letter in your favor, as they are oftentimes really in depth when they are writing their letters of recommendation. And again, you really want to give them at least 2 to 3 months before your application is due to really ask them to write these letters of recommendation. And then biggest thing is you want them to know what you're doing aside from what they know you from. So if they're a professor and they may not know what you've been doing outside of class or in the community or part of your job, this is a great way for them to highlight what they've seen in class and attribute that to what they could see you doing outside of class. And so next thing we're going to focus on are the different types of personal statements. Again, personal thesis, looking at personal essay, your letter of interest or letter of intent for your graduate school application. But we have usually our general comprehensive statements. Again, this gives all applicants, all students who are applying to a graduate program, more flexibility in what they write and how they write it. And then we have more of a different and more specific field, depending on what area of interest you are going into graduate school, but responses to specific questions that they have for the application. And so some tips to think about when you're writing your personal statements, personal essay, is again, why are you writing this? And what do you hope to gain from this specific statement or this essay? And so part of that is what content are you providing? What are you talking about in your essay or your personal statement? And so here's where you really highlight your purpose of your graduate study, what you hope to gain if it's your master's or your doctoral level um, kind of opportunities looking into graduate school. Again, what area of study that you're interested in. If you have a field that has very specified programs after, and you having to choose or select a field after your graduate program, that's kind of an area that you want to highlight. Again, moving forward with your clear career goals. Again, anything else that you may not have indicated on a resume or something that you want to highlight that makes you a more suitable candidate. If you are a great student and you're working 35 hours to full time outside of school currently, that's something that's really great to include, because if they see that you're a phenomenal student and you're working full time or even part time, that's something that they will highly commend, and they really want those students because they know that they're very positive role models and that they are going to do well in that field. And then overall, thinking about what you want to include for your personal essay, thinking about who you are as a student, as a person involved in your area of field. And then again, I add this question at the beginning, but also at the end. Finally, you want to think about why this program or that purpose in writing this statement. So why are you choosing this school, this specific degree, this field, this career path, or this interest? And so kind of continuing through, oftentimes most graduate schools really want to see how well you write. And so this is what your personal statement or your personal essay really does for them to see who you are as an individual. And again, as you kind of are writing your information, your content for your personal essay, your statement, make sure to read it out loud and also have someone else read it out loud to you so that they can see if there are any grammar issues or there's anything that doesn't sound sound as well as it should, or maybe can be reworded to sound a little bit better. And so being cautious of how you use I in any of these statements, any of these essays is very important. You want to focus on what you can provide to the program and what you'll gain from the program. And so again, this is part of defining your goals, your aspirations in your career or your area of interest. And again, make sure that you tailor or you write your personal statement or your essay to that specific industry or field of study. All right. Looking to finance your graduate education, Really, any degree after high school is very expensive. It's so hard oftentimes to find a great way to pay for college, and so these are just some tips, some areas or interests to look into. But you want to find those opportunities for funding. If you know that you're going to have projects outside of the classroom or internships that you're going to have to pay for, thinking ahead of time to save a little money, and kind of asking the school what they offer in your internships if they do, or your interviews if they do offer some funding for professional development or conferences or anything else involving your specific study. And so there are what we call graduate assistantships that you can work on campus, and you can be a research graduate assistant. You can be a graduate assistant in a specific office in one of the student affairs programs. You can be in teaching assistant as a graduate student. And so, what other opportunities do some of those professors or departments have is based on what research you do. And so, this is very important to always focus on. Again, at least 4 to 5 months before you really apply and think that you're going to want to go to that program or that university. And so, as I mentioned, teaching assistantships, research assistantships, scholarships are great ways. Oftentimes, they want to wait for after your first year for scholarships, but you can still get scholarships your first year. So don't hesitate to ask and don't hesitate to apply. And so again, making sure that you look through their website, and oftentimes you'll see the options for financial aid, for student loans, and making sure that you read carefully what those loans really mean and how much you will be paying back after the fact. And so, final thoughts on looking for specific graduate school programs. So, make sure that when you're looking through programs, looking through graduate school, that you really focus on those applied learning opportunities. Or another way to say this is looking for opportunities or programs that give you in field experience, or in the work that you're going to be doing experience, kind of working hands on. Or if the classrooms are more hands on and uh, using that instead of being all online, or providing some opportunities if they are online. And so again, make sure that you have your faculty areas that their interests are aligned with yours, what they're doing research on, what they're studying, maybe that you can help with them. You can be published with them and helping them do their research. Again, utilizing LinkedIn. Appalachian has a huge alumni connections on LinkedIn and other platforms, but LinkedIn is the most professional and the best to utilize connections through that alumni affairs. And so looking at what alumni are doing with that specific degree or specific area for that specific university is something to also consider. And so again, don't be afraid to reach out to the program director, asking them questions. Make sure that if you do email them, how long does it take for them to respond? Are they a professor that is also teaching? Maybe that's why they're taking a little bit time to respond. But again, going on a campus visit, making sure you look at where you're going to be studying and where your classes are going to be, and where you're going to be living. This is an opportunity to really branch out and explore. If you are looking at an out-of-state school or an international school, that's something to always consider, as well as the cost of your student learning. And again, that program and university town also helps you determine a place to live and where you want to move to. All right. And so that's kind of the overall presentation on graduate school. Do you have any questions about graduate school or how to apply to graduate school or anything else?
I think this is good, like all good.
Okay.
Mm,
So there is a little bit more for our presentation. Oftentimes, students aren't necessarily sure that they're interested in graduate school, or if they are, they want a little bit of time in between, which we call a gap year or gap years. And
yeah,
so, kind of as we move forward with graduate school, thinking about a gap year is very beneficial to students because they can get experience in a field or experience overall in any area that will help them in their education as a student. And so, some gap year options, we have different years of service, and we'll go over all of these. You have part time volunteer work that you can do in the community that you're hoping to study. Looking at full time employment, again, that helps you move forward as a really stepping stone into your career. And so, benefits of time off, again, you're more competitive. Oftentimes, graduate schools want to see more diversity in their candidates and want them to see students who have experience working in the field if they are in that specific area of study. Again, you focus on different skill development. You have more networking connections that you create as you work through graduate school or before graduate school. Again, career research, what opportunities are available to you, and then financing. If you have a full time position and you're working to get your degree part time or full time as well, that's a great way for you to help pay and not have to worry about taking as many loans or any other opportunities. And so, some of the largest programs that we focus on or that we really highlight here, especially at Appalachian, is AmeriCorps. And so, within AmeriCorps, we have VISTA, or the Volunteers in Service to America. We have Campus Compact, the state and national AmeriCorps programs, and then the National Civilian Community Corps, or the NCCC. And then we also have ACE and then Peace Corps. So ACE is the American Conservation Experience. And then we have the Peace Corps, which is a 27-month program, or 2 years and 3 years, 3 months of training. And so both of these have different areas that focus on agriculture, community, economic development, education, the youth development, and environment and health fields. And again, those are some of our largest programs. But looking at taking a year or two off, we have different years of service programs. We have domestic, international volunteer programs, and then various faith based programs that we kind of have listed here for you. And so, looking to pursue work or travel outside of your intended career goals, you also want to stay connected within your area of interest or your field of education that you hope to pursue after you finish this gap year or gap years. All right. And that's it for our presentation. If you have any additional questions, I can help you with them now. You can set up a meeting with me afterwards.